Oh, how I have missed you. Catching up after our trip turned out to be much, much harder than I expected. The laundry of it all, y'all. I think I need a vacation from the vacation. Let me tell you about my secret dream vacation. There's this cute movie on Netflix called Like Father with Kristen Bell and Fraser Crane, or the actor who plays Fraser Crane, Kelsey Grammer. Her fiance breaks up with her at the altar, and then she and her estranged father get drunk, and daddy and daughter end up attending her honeymoon cruise vacation together on a whim without even packing. They just buy clothes on the boat from the gift shop, most of which is branded with Royal Caribbean, which cracks me up. But seriously, look at that cute romper. That is my dream. Can you imagine just showing up? Now that's a vacation. Back here in reality, we packed too much stuff, and of course, it all had to be laundered when we got back because even the stuff that we didn't wear now smelled like sunscreen and chlorine and salt water. I think we need to invent recyclable, disposable clothes. Take paper gowns to the next level. Remember those tablets that expanded into squishy creatures or colorful sponges? Currently, they even make compressed washcloths that you just add water to and they expand. We need to harness that technology into little clothing tablets. You could pack 10 days of outfits in an Altoids tin instead of a suitcase. Perhaps the clothes could disintegrate when you're done wearing them so that there's no laundry. Or maybe, hear me out, maybe we could just normalize being naked. Actually, that is a terrible idea. I just pictured the buffet area with everyone naked. Ew, and now I can't unsee it. We need some eye bleach. Let's get to why you came here today. The Taillight Whisperer. So, this 18-page report was posted to Reddit. Reddit can be a cesspool or a jacuzzi, depending on where you hang out and who you interact with. There are some brilliant minds, and there are some people who will be harmful to your blood pressure. This, I'm not quite sure what to call it, analysis, article, is detailed, but not necessarily complex, which creates an interesting cognitive load. It's written in fairly plain English and makes its point without tangled technical jargon. To me, this writing style and what David M. McIntyre is about to express is a great example of how anyone could have conducted this research, but Mr. McIntyre did. This initiative is something to be celebrated. It's less about intellect and more about the time investment, which is beautiful because it makes it so relatable. Look at what we can accomplish when we all contribute toward a common goal. The crowdsourcing in Karen's case has hopefully eclipsed the corruption of the Commonwealth. Let that be the legacy. Thousands of people have brought water to the fire with their time, their talent, or their treasure. In my opinion, the patron saint, the fairy godmother of this entire situation, was Dr. Marie Russell, who realized she had unique knowledge and experience, and she offered her skill. She took the time and ponied up the money to fly across the country to share her extremely informed perspective. But she's not the only one doing big things. Think of the time and the standouts, the treasure and the donations, and the talent in the community. Thousands of people across the world amplifying the message of justice and free speech. This is the America I want to live in, where we the people stand up for each other and invest in justice and support, even when it's not our own personal battle. Which leads me to some interesting and important observations by other creators, and I'll put the links to these videos along with the timestamps into the description box so that you can view them if you haven't already. Microdots noticed the suspicious orb in the Sallyport video, supposedly the taillight, which was bizarrely projecting over the officers' bodies. Aussie Insider experimented with removing the red from the video's color spectrum and noticed that it only impacted the hue of the taillight in an otherwise black and white scene. Here's another example of an experiment that Aussie did. I think this one is from John's driveway. Look at how easy it was for her to remove the red hue from the photo. One click changed the taillight from red to white, and nothing else in the scene was noticeably impacted. Aussie's friend Abby noticed that it appeared a stamp tool had been used on the taillight in the alleged dash cam from the wellness check. Put a pin in the topic of the wellness check because we will be coming back to that. And I've been conducting some research too, with my cloth measuring tape and my math about how many tire rotations it takes to travel 62.5 feet, because somehow I was skeptical about the formula 2 pi r, and I needed to see it, like really see it with my own eyes and hands for it to make sense. And what I discovered was, for Karen's vehicle, one tire rotation is 97 to 98 inches. So 62.5 feet is 7.65 tire rotations. That's it. It's not even 8 rotations. You know what this means, right? The 24 miles per hour for 62.5 feet in reverse incident was literally caught on video outside Mr. and Mrs. Reed's home in Dighton. You can go rewatch it on Emily D. Baker's channel. I've linked it in the description along with a minute marker. I know, right? I've been incubating some research on this for a while, so stay tuned. Today's hero, though, is our taillight whisperer, David M. McIntyre. After sharing some facts and hypotheses, Mr. McIntyre shares some opinions and opinion-based conclusions. I just want to make that extra clear, although you'll know them when you see them. I love that we get to noodle through this together because we're just normal people, much like the jurors would be. I can promise you this won't be a technical conversation because my understanding of automotive stuff is about as good as my understanding of computers. And yesterday, a very patient IT professional had to teach me where the start button is on the computer. It turns out that the start button and the power button are not the same thing. Come for the Karen Reed content, stay for the life pro tips, right? Now, before we review the report, I want to share this quote with you. I'm not completely sure of its veracity because it feels a little bit like, quote, love one another, end quote, dash God. But regardless of if Buddha really said it, the message is, to me, very valid and on point. Believe nothing, no matter where you read it or who said it, not even if I have said it, unless it agrees with your own reason and your own common sense. So let's take a look at this analysis and see if it agrees with our own reason and our own common sense. Are you ready? Let's get to it. So every video, I always receive a few comments accusing me of being AI, which always makes me giggle. I picture giving directions to the computer. Make it AI, but give it dyslexia and seasonal allergies. Throw in a lawn crew, a golden retriever, and a baby monitor in the background to really make it more authentic. Can you imagine? Recording would definitely be easier if I could do that, but alas, you're getting the real me. I've read through this document a few times, and you may want to as well, because although it's not complex, it's also not very sticky in terms of comprehension. At least it wasn't for me. So I will also give you the link to the actual PDF so that you can review it on your own time if you need to, come back and give it another look through. So, Reed's damaged taillight, proof of innocence, by David M. McIntyre. The first time I saw the One Meadows Ave Ring camera video of Karen Reed's damaged taillight, I got the feeling that the video had been altered. When the rear of the car first comes into view, there appears to be a brown smudge over the right taillight. The brown smudge changes shape as the car goes down the driveway. Then the stop lights come on, and the right taillight appears the same as the left taillight. This struck me as odd, as in most common taillights, the tail and stop lights are the same bulb. I went to Lexus of Northborough. The service people were very interested in the Reed case, and they allowed me to review their manuals. This proved futile, as the LX570 manuals do not show the internal circuitry of the taillight. The service people told me that the internal circuitry was not relevant to them, as there are no serviceable parts in the taillight. I was determined to acquire a drawing showing the taillight's internal circuitry. I contacted Toyota Lexus USA in Texas, but they could not provide a drawing. I knew a schematic had to exist in order to build the taillight, but the car is made in Japan, and now there would be a language barrier. I searched the Toyota Lexus headquarters in Japan and found an American attorney living in Japan was on the board of directors. I emailed her office. She contacted a person in the company who told me, because I am in the U.S., that I would have to contact Toyota Lexus USA in Texas. I finally gave up on obtaining the taillight's internal circuitry schematic, as I had already dealt with Toyota Lexus USA. Still, a very noble attempt, I think. Some may say Herculean. After months of pondering, I decided to obtain a 2021 Lexus LX570 taillight in order to analyze its construction and determine if what is seen in the video is possible. Using the trial exhibits, I recreated the damage to Reed's taillight on my taillight and have concluded that the One Meadows Ring camera video has been altered and Reed was framed. I made 3 PDFs explaining my observations. The video alteration exposed PDF is only 1 page and explains why what is seen in the video is not possible with an LX570 taillight. The Reed's damaged taillight PDF has my opinion of how and when the taillight was damaged. The most damaging blow PDF describes the damage that I did not recreate on the taillight. I felt that if I recreated this damage, the taillight would be too fragile to handle, and I would probably damage the internal circuit boards. For convenience, I have combined these 3 PDFs into this PDF. Well, already he has more technical skill than I do, because I have no idea how to create or combine PDFs. So consider me impressed. The One Meadows Ring camera video of Reed leaving at 5:08 a.m. is the only evidence indicating when Reed's taillight was damaged. This video has been altered, as the illumination of the left side of the taillight with the middle portion is dark as shown in the video, and it's not possible. Let me read that sentence again. This video has been altered, as the illumination of the left side of the taillight with the middle portion dark, as shown in this video, is not possible. The illumination of the left side of the taillight proves the taillight was not damaged at 5:08 a.m. The undamaged parts of the taillight prove the taillight's damage could not have been caused by striking a person. Now, I know this feels a little bit abstract at the moment, but he's going to show us some diagrams in a second that will help us to better visualize what he's saying. So stay tuned. I sent this information to David Yannetti. Alan Jackson called me and asked if I could deliver my taillight to Yannetti's office. I delivered the taillight on Wednesday, September 18th, and I believe he's referring to this year, the year of 2024. I also called Hank Brennan and offered him the information. Brennan told me to send the info to the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office. I sent the info to the DA's office on Thursday, September 26th, again, 2024. Knowing the information I sent to the DA's office proves the One Meadows Ring camera video was altered and proves Reed's taillight was not damaged at 5:08 a.m., I expected the charges against Reed to be dropped. But no, Brennan is seeking to retrieve more data from Reed's car. I can't tell if he's being sarcastic or if he's being sincere. And if he's being sincere, I feel such empathy for him because in a normal circumstance, if someone discovered definitive proof of someone's innocence and presented it, then it would be a reasonable expectation that the charges would be dropped. But I feel like in this case, there could literally be video of the McAlberts bringing John out on the lawn from inside the house, and somehow the Commonwealth would still be trying to prosecute Karen Reed. So, okay. So let's see. I expected the charges against Reed to be dropped, but no. Brennan is seeking to retrieve more data from Reed's car. This is laughable. Trooper Paul's testimony and the data he extracted makes it painfully obvious that the car's data was altered. See LX570 data altered later in this PDF. It is obvious that Reed has been framed, and now we have a bulleted list of 6 items. Deputy Police Chief Thomas Kelleher lives at 31 Fairview Road and has a Ring camera with a view of the area where O'Keefe was found. He said he reviewed the video and there was nothing suspicious about it. Even though the Canton police recused themselves from the investigation, Kelleher did not give the video to the state police and the video was not saved. Without knowing the settings for Kelleher's Ring camera, it is impossible to state whether the camera recorded anything, but not saving the video and the state police not subpoenaing the video is suspicious. Next item. After leaving 34 Fairview, Reed drove to One Meadows. 2 minutes of video, which would have shown Reed's taillight at the time that she drove by the Canton Library, is missing. Next bullet. The One Meadows Ring camera footage of Reed arriving at approximately 12:40 a.m. is missing. Next bullet. The construction of Reed's taillight proves that the video of her leaving at 5:08 a.m. has been altered and that the taillight was not broken at 5:08 a.m. Next bullet. No pieces of the taillight were found by Canton police when they searched the location at the time that O'Keefe was found. Next bullet. The data retrieved from Reed's car indicates that the car was driven 36 miles with 2 trigger events when it was sitting on the back of a tow truck. The Commonwealth has spent millions of our tax dollars on this case, starting with the police who searched 34 Fairview, the coroner, the investigators, the prosecutors, the expert witnesses, and the many hundreds of exhibit photographs. The jury selection, the judge, and court personnel have all cost us our tax dollars. This situation is appalling, spending more of our tax dollars to continue prosecuting an innocent person and allowing killers to walk amongst us. It has now been a month since I delivered my taillight to Yanetti's office, and it is getting close to the day that the Massachusetts Supreme Court will hear arguments on dismissing 2 of the charges against Reed. Spending just 1 more minute of time on prosecuting Reed is a complete waste of taxpayers' money and gives 1 more minute of freedom to the real killers of John O'Keefe. On the next pages is the material contained in my video alteration exposed PDF, Reed's damaged taillight PDF, and the most damaging blow PDF, followed by LX570 data altered, explaining the inconsistencies in the retrieved data. Under the heading Stop Light Undamaged, I have included further proof that Reed's taillight was not damaged at 5:08 a.m. At the end is a simple test. This simple test would put all doubting minds to rest. And this next section is called Video Alteration Exposed. And we have a yellow arrow pointing to an unlit portion of the right rear taillight of Karen's Lexus. The image above is a crop of a frame from the One Meadows Ave Ring camera video at approximately 5:08 a.m. on January 29, 2022. The yellow arrow points to an unlit portion of the taillight. The black circles on the below left image, I'll show you in a second, indicate the locations of the internal LEDs. The LEDs are behind clear plastic, and the light from the LEDs follows the clear plastic. In the image above, the left end of the right taillight is lit, but the center is unlit. The light from the LEDs shines from right to left. It is absolutely impossible for the left end of the taillight to be lit with the center unlit. The One Meadows Ave Ring camera video has been altered. So essentially what he's saying is that because of the placement of these LEDs, there's no way that, like, I guess what he's saying is that the light from the corner, which is lit, is what lights up that remaining portion of that bottom strip. And therefore, if that light is lit, then the rest of it should be lit too. Also, I mean, like, when you really look in, does something look odd about, I mean, like, look, you can see the texture on the image on the left, and on the right, it almost looks like ribbon. Like there's no texture to it, and I don't get the impression that that's just like what's going on there. There's just we'll have to check into that a little bit further. Okay. Reed's Damaged Taillight by David M. McIntyre. So this is the next section. In the process of reconstructing Reed's damaged taillight, I analyzed all of the photographs of the taillight pieces that were entered as exhibits during her trial. Exhibit number 267 caught my attention as there is clear plastic fused to a piece of red plastic lens. So there is. This struck me as odd, as it would take an incredible amount of force to fuse two pieces of plastic together, and the clear plastic dimpled diffuser directly behind this piece of lens is intact. The end of the clear plastic dimpled diffuser, a couple inches to the left of where exhibit 267 is located on the taillight, is broken. After comparing exhibit number 421, exhibit 390, and numerous other exhibits with an actual LX570 taillight, I can see only one way to account for the damage to Reed's taillight. And now we've got some images here. Exhibit 421 is on the left, and exhibit 390 is on the right. I have designated 2 points of impact on the above image of exhibit number 390. The taillight was struck with a heavy object at point 1 going from left or right to left. Let me read that again since I goofed up the order of the words. The taillight was struck with a heavy object at point 1 going from right to left. The heavy object had to be narrow as the black plastic around the turn signal and the chrome divider between the clear diffusers remained intact. I doubt if an ordinary hammer could be swung with enough force to cause the resulting damage. The best tool to use to cause the damage to the taillight would be a 20-pound pinch point bar, similar to the pinch point bar illustrated. So here's what a 20-pound pinch point bar looks like. And I know that this, I know that this is not even that relevant, but looking at that thing kind of reminds me of those, what do they call them? When you, like a long time ago, when you would lock your keys in the car, and you'd call the police and they'd come with that long, skinny metal thing and they'd like, what's it called? A Slim Jim, maybe? Is it called a Slim Jim? It just, for some reason, that popped into my brain while looking at that. Okay. A pinch point bar is not a common household tool, but a gardening pick or pickaxe could also cause the damage and are fairly common. A length of 3/4 inch pipe or a steel bar could also be used. Going forward, I will use the term the bar for the tool used to damage the taillight and meaning any heavy, narrow instrument. So we're going to call whatever the tool was, we're just going to call it the bar. The impact shattered the lens to the immediate left of point 1, broke off exhibit 267, driving exhibit 267 into the clear plastic dimple diffuser, pushing the inner taillight assembly into the housing, and the housing hitting the body of the car. The circle on the following image shows the damage to the body of the car due to the blow that sandwiched exhibit 267. The clear plastic dimple diffuser and the taillight housing between the end of the bar and the body of the car. Do I need to read that sentence again? I feel like I do. It despite the fact that I've now read this several times, again, it's not sticky. It's not making its way into my comprehension. So I'm guessing that you may have missed it as well. Let me try again. The circle on the following image shows the damage to the body of the car due to the blow that sandwiched exhibit number 267. The clear plastic dimple diffuser and the taillight housing between the end of the bar and the body of the car. The force of the blow being stopped by the body of the car fused part of the clear... I think it's the length of these sentences. Okay. The force of the blow being stopped by the body of the car fused... Okay, we're using fused as a verb here. Part of the clear plastic dimple diffuser to exhibit 267. So it was the force of the blow that did the fusing. And it looks like it did the damaging too. The black plastic around the turn signal and the chrome divider between the clear diffusers are only 1 1/4 inch apart. It is impossible for any part of the human body to penetrate this narrow space with enough force to fuse two separate pieces of plastic together. This one point of impact is positive proof that the damage to the taillight was not caused by striking a person. Well, that seems reasonable. Okay, let's see. The taillight was struck a second time with the bar at point 2 as indicated on exhibit 390. The bar penetrated the lens going from right to left. The bar shattered the clear lens covering the turn signal, scraping across the black plastic surrounding the turn signal, breaking the inner clear plastic lens, and then breaking the left end of the reflector, pushing the turn signal assembly into the housing, breaking the housing, and slightly damaging the lift gate. Okay. I think that the comprehension problems really are coming from the length of the sentences here. I am resisting the urge to like retype this over and revise it. Like I'm trying to quiet the inner voice. Okay, and then we've got this great diagram that illustrates what was happening in those two previous sentences. So we have the inner clear lens missing, the housing being broken, and look at the suspicious shape of where the housing is broken. I think that's where he got the 1/4 inch sizing of the, what are we calling it, the bar? The reflector being broken and the scrape across the black plastic. Okay. And then he's showing the slight damage to the lift gate. The inside edge of the black plastic surrounding the turn signal measures approximately 2 inches by 4 inches. The black plastic was not broken. It is impossible for any part of the human body to penetrate this size opening to the depth and with the force necessary to cause the existing damage to the tail light. This second point of impact is positive proof that the damage to the tail light was not caused by striking a person. After the second blow to the tail light, the bar was forced into the tail light going towards the front of the car and along the left inner side. Oh, mercy. My baby is fussing. Oh, go back to sleep, sweetheart. Come on. Mama's recording. Okay. After the second blow to the taillight, the bar was forced into the taillight going towards the front of the car and along the left inner side. The bar broke the first vertical clear plastic diffuser, then knocked out the corner of the chrome divider between the clear plastic diffusers, then broke off the bottom of the second vertical clear plastic diffuser and scratched the side of the inner taillight assembly. The bar was then used as a lever. I've been waiting for that part. I mean, it looks like it's been used as a lever, popping off the remaining part of the red lens on the right side of the tail light. And again, he labels, does a great job of labeling what he's describing. So clear plastic diffuser missing, clear plastic diffuser broken from here down, scratch on inner taillight assembly, corner of chrome divider is broken off, corner of chrome divider laying in bottom of tail light. Now to address the One Meadows Ave Ring camera video of Karen leaving at approximately 5:08 a.m. on January 29, 2022. This video was tampered with by a yet-to-be-known person. I think we could also say unknown person. 2 segments are known to be missing. Something else this yet-to-be-known unknown person did to the video can be revealed by analyzing the construction of the tail light. The running light portion of the tail light uses only 4 LEDs. There is 1 LED at the top and behind each vertical clear plastic diffuser shining down, and there is 1 LED at the right end and behind each horizontal clear plastic diffuser shining to the left. The LEDs illuminate red, and an unbroken taillight illuminates nearly identical with and without the red lens. The light observed is dependent upon the clear plastic diffusers. With an unbroken diffuser, the light follows the diffuser and appears as a strip. Without the diffuser, the light is seen as a bright red dot with a red glow around it. The observed light no longer forms a strip, and the light from the top LED does not reach the bottom of the tail light, and the light from the LEDs on the right side does not reach the left side of the tail light. There is no way possible for the light to reach the left side of the tail light without a clear plastic diffuser and without lighting the whole diffuser to appear as a strip. In the photo below is a 2021 Lexus LX570 right tail light lit without the clear plastic diffusers. The yellow circles are the LED locations. The other 2 bright spots are reflections. Wow, that's actually really interesting that that other super bright spot that we're seeing kind of is centered between the left circles is as bright as it is, given that it's a reflection. Okay, the photo below shows the same taillight as above, but reconstructed with the damage shown in the trial exhibits. Man, this guy went all out, huh? Okay, Reed's damaged taillight reconstructed. The upper horizontal clear plastic diffuser appears almost normal, but if the LED was broken, this horizontal diffuser would not be lit. Either way, lit or unlit, makes no difference. The image of Reed's taillight on this page is a crop of a frame from the Ring camera video of her leaving at approximately 5:08 a.m. on January 29th. The yellow circle clearly highlights the light from the LEDs on the right end of the horizontal diffusers, reaching the left end of the diffusers without illuminating the middle of the diffusers. The illumination of the taillight, as seen in this photo, is impossible and is positive proof that the video has been altered. Thank you for your patience. This has quickly become a 4-day video to record because, well, life with a toddler and a teenager keeps you on your toes. This time I tried to remember where I left off so that there would be no gaps. So let's get back to it. I believe the last thing I had read was above this image, and down below it says, if you watch this video closely as Reed drives down the driveway, you can see the garage door closing as the light from the garage disappears, as if a shade is being pulled down. Wow, he's very observant. I've watched it a few times and I surely have not noticed that. Reed comes back about a half hour later and leaves again. During this time, the garage door was found not able to close electrically. Reed left in a different car with the garage door open. The portion of the Ring camera video of Reed leaving is missing. Reed's car did not move again until late in the morning when she went to Dighton. What really happened during the missing video time? There are sensors located at the bottom of the garage door opening on both sides at almost floor level. Oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. Do you? The sensors need to line up to create a beam, and if anything is blocking that beam, then the door won't close. Oh, I should have just kept reading. The purpose of these sensors is to keep the garage door from closing if something or someone is in the opening. A slight kick to either sensor will knock the sensors out of alignment, making the door inoperable and keeping the door open. The next image is a crop of a frame from the One Meadows Ring camera video showing the position and condition of Reed's car when it was parked at approximately 5:45 a.m. So remember, Jen McCabe did the parking at that point. There is a scale overlay for reference. There is a red outline around the edge of the right tail light. There are arrows pointing to the snow above the tail light and on the bumper below the tail light. Let's see. I really like the fact that he put this grid over it because it does help. So in the top image, it says edge of tail light is visible. Snow on top of tail light, snow on bumper. And then in the bottom one, it says edge of tail light is missing. Snow on top of tail light and on bumper is missing. Huh. Look at that. He is right. Yeesh. Good catch. The previous image is a crop of the frame from the One Meadows Ring camera video showing the position and condition of Reed's car when the Canton police arrived at approximately 8:30 a.m. There is a scale overlay for reference. There's a red outline showing where the edge of the right taillight used to be. There are arrows pointing to the direction or to the locations of snow missing from above the taillight and on the bumper below the taillight. Michael Camerano arrived at approximately 6:45 a.m. to pick up John O'Keefe's niece. He found the garage door open and would not close electrically. He thought snow was blocking the sensors, so he cleared the snow from the garage door opening. The door still would not close electrically, so he manually closed the door and latched it on the inside. The Ring camera video is not very clear at this time, but by referencing the scale overlay and comparing frames, from approximately 5:45 a.m., 6:45 a.m., and 8:30 a.m., it can be observed that the edge of the right taillight and the snow went missing sometime between 5:45 a.m. and 6:45 a.m. So, I mean, he's right. Take a look at that. When you look at these illustrations, I feel like we almost have to consider a differential diagnosis. Like, what else could be responsible for this? And I can't speak to the top box, but the bottom box, I mean, is the snow missing, or is it some sort of shadow? Because we have to remember that the sun also rose between 5:45 and 6:45 and 8:30. So, but you'd think that a shadow would cast, not just in that specific spot. You'd think that there'd be, a part of the driveway that was darker or something like that. Now, in reference to where he talks about Michael Camerano and 6:45 a.m., if Mike Camerano picked up Kaylee at 6:45 a.m., why was the police officer even there at 8:30 a.m.? And was it Lieutenant Charles Ray, the same Lieutenant Charles Ray that was mentioned at a recent police audit meeting for something? Was it for being creepy around teenage girls and unnecessarily pulling them over, if memory serves? If so, that makes me extra sad, and therefore, thank goodness that Kaylee wasn't at the house. Who thought it was a good idea to send the police to Kaylee, as she's already aware that her uncle is missing? Like, how incredibly frightening would that be? So down below over here, it says there is missing Ring camera video during this time. How much time is missing, I do not know. With the Ring camera video known to have been tampered with, it is also possible that a recorded portion of the dark driveway during the snowstorm was inserted into the video to account for more missing time. Excellent point. And see, this is where the Commonwealth has really done themselves a disservice by their shenanigans thus far, because when that breach of trust occurs, it makes anything seem possible. So we're not being conspiracy theorists. We're being suspicious, and rightfully so. We're being alert. We're using critical thinking to analyze what's going on, because they have broken the trust of honor and honesty. So, at this point, anything, no matter how far-fetched, seems potentially possible because of how much manipulation has already occurred so far. So it says the garage door was open and there is missing video. All that is needed to break the right taillight and retrieve the pieces is a narrow, heavy object, a tarp, and less than a minute of time. A narrow, heavy object and a tarp are common items to be found in a garage. The less than a minute of time has been accounted for. It is missing. I have pointed out the damage to Reed's taillight. Anyone can verify the damaged parts and, more importantly, verify the undamaged parts. It is impossible for a human body to cause the damage noted without damaging the undamaged parts. Also, the force was so great, it fused two separate pieces of plastic together. I mean, that is pretty impressive. There were no injuries to O'Keefe, indicating he was struck with such great force. It is time for the state to prosecute the real killers of John O'Keefe. And here's the portion entitled The Most Damaging Blow. When I reconstructed Reed's damaged taillight, I only focused on the damage to the parts that affected the illumination of the taillight, as seen in the One Meadows Ring camera video. There was another blow to the taillight that damaged the upper left corner. This blow caused the most damage to the taillight, breaking out the back of the housing and damaging the body of the car that is concealed by the housing. And a close examination of what he has highlighted in these circles shows that it's true there would be damage and is damage behind where the taillight would have been placed in that housing. The yellow circle on Exhibit 432 highlights the narrow portion of the outer lens that was broken by this blow. The yellow circle on Exhibit 187, here, let me scroll up a little bit so you can see at the same time. The yellow circle on Exhibit 187 indicates the blow struck the top of the turn signal assembly, forcing it down and forward, at the same time breaking the top left corner of the tail light. The yellow circle on Exhibit 189 highlights where the whole inside top corner broke off due to the blow. Okay, I think we're looking at the back side of the tail light in that picture. Let's see. Okay, the yellow circle on the video frame highlights the damage to the body of the car and indicates that the force of the blow was most likely in a downward direction. And I think we can visualize that. If you picture that poker thing that he showed earlier, that skinny little, what did they call it? A 20-pound pinch point bar. Like, picture that prying in and pushing forward. You can totally visualize it. Abutting the taillight to the immediate left of the point of impact is the liftgate taillight, which is also made of plastic and is not damaged. Abutting the taillight directly above is the body of the car, and it appears to be undamaged. The black plastic surrounding the turn signal is unbroken, but has slight damage at the top, indicating something narrow was forced between the top of the turn signal and the housing, with enough force to push the turn signal assembly into the housing and break off the top inside corner of the housing. The point of impact is at least 6 inches forward of the rear bumper, and the surface of the taillight is at an angle approximately 50 degrees from vertical. A human body being struck by a horizontally moving vehicle could never inflict the damage observed at this location without damaging the black plastic around the turn signal, the plastic liftgate taillight, and the body of the car above the taillight. And that's a really good point. The force would need to come from above, downward, and outward in order to create that kind of damage. The taillight was struck in 4 separate locations and did not break the black plastic around the turn signal and did not break the chrome plastic divider between the horizontal clear diffusers, both of which protrude from the parts that were broken. The inside of the turn signal opening is approximately 2 inches by 4 inches, and the space between the black plastic around the turn signal and the chrome plastic divider is 1 1/4 inch. A human body is a blunt object, and if struck by this taillight, the first thing to break would be the red lens, followed by the protruding black plastic around the turn signal and the chrome plastic divider. This taillight was not broken by striking a person. So it looks like he came to the same conclusion that Arca did, and it's great that he's kind of walking us through the steps instead of summarizing the way that ARCA did, which isn't a slight to ARCA. I mean, they had limited time, and who knows if anybody in that room could have even mentally processed these details given what they had already endured for so many days. So this next page is titled LX570 Data Altered. On February 2nd, 2023, Trooper Joe Paul retrieved the vehicle control history VCH data from Reed's car. The retrieved data is presented in Exhibit 591. This report uses the term key cycle, meaning the number of times the car's ignition has been powered up since the time the car was manufactured. Trooper Paul stated that on February 1st, 2022, he began testing the car on key cycle 01164 and has Reed hitting O'Keefe on key cycle 01162. This is obviously incorrect by simply reviewing the known movements of Reed's car. Now, before I scroll down, I just want to point something out. I've started to do some research about the key cycles and the way that the text stream data is removed from the car and the way that it is presented when you do remove it from the car. And I can tell you with like 99% certainty that this table is a replica. It's not authentic. It is not part of the text stream. There is an option with the text stream to extract the data in CSV format, that .csv. Sometimes when you open a file on the computer, and let's say it's a file that originated from Microsoft and now you're bringing it over to Google or vice versa, and sometimes it will say, do you want to open this .csv file as an Excel spreadsheet or as a Google sheet? So I think that .csv is just kind of like a raw data table, but I know definitely for sure that, because remember, I used to be a teacher and I used to export data like from the grade book so that I could work on it at home. I mean, at this point, you can log on at home, I'm sure, from the system. But back in the day, we used to have to kind of travel it back and forth using these .csv type tables. And once you bring that data over, you're free to manipulate it. It's not logged. So you can delete, you can edit, you can revise, you can remove. You are able to, unless you manually go through and manually freeze columns, you can manipulate that data as you see fit. And I am almost certain that that is what has happened here, because I scrutinized different examples online and compared it against this, and the margins are different. The font is slightly different. There's just several key differences, including the fact that we have the first key cycle, allegedly, and then these huge gaps of data. So this is not an authentic, original piece of information. This has almost certainly been tampered with. So yeah, that's my opinion about that. But one other thing I wanted to say is, as we look at this, rumor has it, and I'm not certain. I'm willing to believe this rumor, but I can't say absolutely for sure. But see how the clock type column and time and date column are empty, which initially feels suspicious, right? I mean, it feels like if there's a column, it should be filled with data. Allegedly, these columns rely on data from the factory tech stream, like infotainment center. And if you have an aftermarket, like Apple infotainment center, or an Android one that's been installed, after, like, not factory, not OEM, then these columns won't be able to be filled in because the columns are relying on the data from, like, the time data from the factory installed infotainment system. So again, that's been the rumor. I can't speak to the truth of it, but I'm willing to believe it because that does seem pretty logical. Now, if somebody who's listening has more information about this, please feel free to chime in and explain more about it. And also, because I don't know anything about aftermarket infotainment centers, and this is sort of off task, but I need to get one for my own car. And I don't even know the starting point of how that works. But this is kind of silly to admit. And again, I'm sorry for it being off task, but so I have what I call the world's first electric BMW, and I call it that because it's a 2005 BMW 745 LI, I think, or something. And the reason that it is electric is because the battery will not hold a charge, and so and I don't get out and drive very much. I mean, we take my car, like, I bring the baby to Mother's Day out and pick him up, and if we're going like a long distance, then we'll take my car because it's a very, very comfortable car. But the battery is so unreliable that whenever I park it in the garage, I have to pop the hood, and then we have just a regular standard outlet that goes, like, the plug goes into the outlet in the wall, and then there's these two, like, tiny little jumper cables that I have to attach to the battery literally every single time that the car is not in use, because otherwise the battery just doesn't hold a charge, even though the battery is brand new. And I'm sure like, it is such a pain in the rear end to find someone that is willing to work on an almost classic BMW. And it's one of those things. We only recently got it after my daughter became a driver. I gave her my car, and my father. So up in the Northeast, my father had a 1998 Saab 9000 that I think it was a 9000 that he loved because the glove box, I think it was refrigerated, and so he could always keep a grinder in there. And so he drove that thing until he passed away in 2019. I mean, he really believed that, if you take excellent care of a vehicle, then it can last, decades. So when we had the opportunity to purchase another vehicle after my daughter became a driver, when we found this one that had been a single owner vehicle and had been well maintained, it reminded me so much of my dad that I wanted to honor the car in that way. Ironically, we didn't know that at the time that we got the car, we didn't know two things. One, we didn't know that we had the C virus. I'm not sure if I can say it on YouTube. So we didn't know that our sense of smell wasn't working when my husband and I purchased this car. And therefore, we didn't know that it had an oil leak until like a week after we'd already purchased it. So, I mean, this thing has just been like what's the expression? A money pit. It's been an absolute money pit, but yes, at this point, the infotainment center is receiving power, but for whatever reason, the speakers are not working on it. And my husband says, oh, let's just get an aftermarket infotainment center. Choose one that you'd like. And I'm like, I don't even know where to start. Like, how does one do that? So if you know, please tell me. Please tell me in the comments where I would even get started on this project, because I don't even know. So coming back to this document, as we already know, this chart and Trooper Paul, the illustrious Trooper Paul, his data is inaccurate. I mean, it literally cannot be that the incident took place when he's claiming that it did. So down below, the author of this indicates in his calculation what the minimum key cycles would be. So counting backwards, 01164, Trooper Paul drives the car out of the Canton Police Sallyport on February 1st, 2022. Below that, we have question marks because we don't know. Before driving out of the Sallyport, Trooper Paul conducts the crash data retrieval. Did he turn off the ignition when he removed the data cable? And in an upcoming video, I'll be able to show you what the data cable looks like and how all that works. So below that, it says 01163. Car is driven off tow truck and into Canton Police Sallyport. Below that, question mark, question mark, question mark. Did the tow truck driver turn off the ignition before giving the car to the police? I've had that question too. 01162. Car is driven onto tow truck in Dighton. Now, if you go back to, and remember, I've got that link to Emily D. Baker, like that was just the one that I happened to take a screenshot of the timestamp. So I've got the link sending you to being able to watch as the tow truck driver attempts to get the vehicle onto the tow truck from Karen's parents' driveway. And when you watch, it's clear he starts up the vehicle, tries to go backward, is prevented by the snow. The tires slip a bit. He comes forward a bit. Then he goes backward, kind of into a 3-point turn, attempts to line up and move forward onto the ramp, gets about halfway up the ramp, has to come back down off the ramp to reline up again, kind of like when you go through the car wash and you have to line up the tire onto that track. So he's trying to, get himself lined up. So he has to come backwards again, backwards a bit further, and then move forward. Now, to me, and there I am, like freezing the frame, trying to count the tire rotations as that's happening. I feel fairly convinced that that is our 62 feet, all of that maneuvering. And I've looked using Google Maps. I've looked at Karen's parents' driveway, and I've tried to measure, like scale model of their driveway to figure out how many feet is this portion and how much like run did they have to get back to pull up, how big was the tow truck. I truly believe that instance is key cycle 01162. And then our author here says key cycle 01161 is the car being driven from One Meadows Ave to Dighton. And I don't dispute that either. And then we have 01160. Car is driven from One Meadows Ave to Waterfall Bar and Grill to 12 Country Lane and back to One Meadows Ave. I believe that he's talking about in the morning when Karen went past Waterfall to Jen McCabe's. Remember, Jen McCabe said that Karen was so distraught when she arrived at Jen's house that she left the car door open as she went kind of screaming up the drive and screaming into the house. And I can't tell if that would indicate that the vehicle was on or off. Like, I keep trying to think what would be more worthy of making a comment about the car door being open. Like, would it be more unusual if Karen had turned off the car and left the car door open and went screaming up the walk? Or would it be more unusual if Karen left the car on, so I assume that the heat would be running, and left the car door open and went screaming up the walk? Because I feel like whichever one is the more unusual is probably what happened for Jen McCabe to be commenting on it. But that's just my line of thinking. You know, others could have a different perspective, and if you do, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, okay, 01159. Car is driven from Waterfall Bar and Grill to 34 Fairview Road to 1 Meadows Ave. By reviewing the known movements of Reed's car, the car was definitely in police custody on key cycle 01162, with the car somewhere between being loaded onto the tow truck and being driven into the Sally Port. More information is needed to exactly place what event occurred on key cycle 01162. The latest possible cycle for the car to be at 34 Fairview Road is key cycle 01159. And it says the more interesting fact is the mileage is 12629 on key cycle 01162 and 12665 on key cycle 01164. This is a difference of 36 miles when the car is supposed to be on the tow truck or possibly driven into the Sally Port. It is obvious that this is not possible and the car's data has been altered. And I know that there's a theory floating around that perhaps while the vehicle was in state police custody, they used the lack of timestamp to their advantage and tried to recreate and re-trigger the events, perhaps in the parking lot at the police department or somewhere, to get the mileage where they needed it to be, to get the key cycles, the events, all that jazz where it needed to be. And so I've heard this theory. I'm not sure what to make of it, because I feel like the set of facts that we already have supports the idea of when those events took place. So I don't necessarily know that it would have had to be replicated, but maybe it was. I mean, like I was saying earlier, literally anything is possible when the trust has been breached. So then we have this snippet of the Bosch report of the crash data retrieval. And I got a kick out of the fact, I didn't know this, that the same people that do the Bosch dishwashers also have to do with vehicles. I think that's so cool. I love when companies have a very expanded portfolio. So system status at the time of the retrieval, and you can pause on this screen, or like I said, if this nitty gritty is important to you, I'll include the link to the original, to this exact PDF, so that you can take a look at it for yourself. I don't know that we necessarily need to run through it. The thing with the red arrow appears to be the most important for what this fellow is about to say. So I'll read that line and you can check out the rest if you're curious about it. Ignition cycle download times, and then the red arrow extends all the way over and it says 11:35. And hopefully he will explain to us what that means. And this information comes to us from page 4 of Exhibit 590. But even more interesting is the crash data retrieval, CDR, conducted on February 1st, 2022 at ignition cycle 1135. The CDR retrieves the data stored in the event data recorder, the EDR. And I've heard people refer to the EDR as the black box of the vehicle world. The federal government sets requirements for manufacturers of EDRs to follow. The government also dictates the meaning of various EDR terms. All right, so it's standardized. It's nice that they've done that. So let's take a look at what the standards are for the language and definitions when it comes to EDRs. So we have CFR Title 49, Subtitle B, Chapter V, Part 563, Subsection 563.1, Scope. This part specifies uniform national requirements for vehicles equipped with the Event Data Recorders, EDRs, concerning the collection, storage, and retrievability of onboard motor vehicle crash event data. It also specifies requirements for vehicle manufacturers to make tools and/or methods commercially available so that crash investigators and researchers are able to retrieve data from EDRs. And then subsection 563.5 has the definitions. Ignition cycle download means the number or count of power cycles applied to the recording device at the time when the data was downloaded since the first use of the EDR. Power is supplied to the EDR every time the ignition is energized, and the first use of the EDR is the first time the ignition was energized. The meanings of an EDR's ignition cycle and a CDR's key cycle are the same, with each system using a different term for the same function. Trooper Paul stated the mileage on Reed's car was 12,665 when he conducted the CDR on February 1st, 2022, and the report states the data was retrieved on ignition cycle 1135. On February 2nd, 2023, was it really that? Or is that a typo? I think it really was that. There's just, even when you think you know everything that there is to know about this case, there's just so much info and so many years worth of data overlapping that, like, you just start losing touch with what's a typo and what actually happened years later. It's incredible. So February 2nd, 2023, Trooper Paul retrieved the VCH data from Reed's car on key cycle 01164 with a mileage of 12,665. This is 29 more times the ignition was energized between the retrievals when it should only be 1 or 2. The Bosch CDR retrieves the data from the EDR. Both have to meet federal requirements. The VCH data is retrieved using the Toyota TechStream scan tool. The tool is not regulated. The VCH data is located in the Vehicle's Electronic Control Unit, ECU. I know this feels a little bit technical, but in my estimation, like, we can just kind of attribute it to, here's what it is, here's where it's stored. Like, we don't necessarily need to understand the specifics of it in order to be able to understand his point. There is a known hack done by unscrupulous car dealers in which the odometer is rolled back by accessing the ECU. There are also reports of the VCH missing key cycles. during my limited research, I did not come across any reports of extra key cycles in the VCH. And that's a good point. I haven't, in my limited research, I haven't come across anything indicating why there would ever be additional, like extra cycles represented in that data. To summarize, the VCH data has at least 27 additional and unaccounted key cycles. I have found no reports of vehicles with additional and unaccounted key cycles in the VCH. The VCH has Reed's car being driven 36 miles when it was on the back of a tow truck. That's a very bold statement. He seems to be able to support it, but that's one that kind of sticks out to me. Like, I don't know. The ECU data can be altered with a known hack, and that's the mileage rollback. The VCH uses ECU data that can also be hacked. From the summary, it would appear that the VCH data was altered, but there is another possibility. The car could have been driven 36 miles and timing the two triggers. Normally, I would never suggest this as the car was in the Canton Police Sallyport with security cameras, but the One Meadows ring camera video has been altered and other security camera videos are missing. Anything is possible. That's what we were talking about earlier. You know, when the trust is breached, it opens the door. You should also note the EDR and the VCH did not record any triggers while the car was in Reed's possession, which I feel like should be underlined, bold. Like, they've demonstrated, Trooper Paul himself demonstrated that the cameras and everything else were working, and therefore, if there was something to record, such as there being a 6'2" man standing behind the vehicle, that the vehicle would have recorded and, like signaled as such, and it didn't. And I feel like that just keeps getting glossed over. I guess it's because it's, the absence of something is a little bit harder to conceive than the presence of something. Brennan now wants to attempt to retrieve more data from Reed's car. Brennan could easily portray Trooper Paul as incompetent at retrieving data, as Paul definitely committed a blunder calculating the key cycles. Plus, Trooper Paul never specified an injury to O'Keefe which could cause the damage to the taillight. Paul never specified the part of O'Keefe's body that damaged the taillight without damaging the immediate adjacent parts of the car and without damaging the protruding internal parts of the taillight. So, why not throw Trooper Paul under the bus? Oh, I think Trooper Paul's going to be going under the bus all right. And, like, if we're being honest, I feel sorry for Trooper Paul, and I don't know him. I don't know the full situation, but he seems a little bit like a very convenient patsy. Like, he doesn't seem to have the cognitive, like, nimbleness, I guess, that, for instance, Trooper Garino had. Like, a lot of the dishonest people that we saw on the stand have the cognitive processing speed to be like light on their feet and make stuff up as they go and kind of keep track of their lives. I feel that Trooper Paul is working with less when it comes to his cognitive resources. I feel like he the COGAT is a measure of cognitive processing speed, almost as if our brains are computers. And it's very akin to an IQ score with like, it sort of maxes out around 150, maybe 160. And allegedly 110 or like 100 to 110 is around average. I feel like some of the more skilled liars and dishonest people are kind of in the 120 range. Trooper Paul strikes me as someone who is in the low 100s, maybe even in the 90s. I feel like he has the capacity to retain a lot of information and recite information, but not necessarily apply the information. And the reason I'm saying all of this is, oh God, okay. I think that he is of, okay, like this is so hard to say. I almost wish that I hadn't. You guys know that I don't edit because I don't know how to. So I just try never to say anything that needs to be edited out. And now I've sort of started down a path that I almost wish I could take back. But okay. Well, you know that I have adopted a special needs baby. And so when I see Trooper Paul and I see that he is not as cognitively blessed, seemingly, as some of his peers, part of me thinks, like, wow, good for him for working hard, like kind of compensating for that gap by, being tenacious and maximizing the resources that he does have to be able to do the job that he's doing. Like, I really didn't get a manipulative vibe from him so much as I got a like he was just like a patsy. Like, they just kind of put this on him, told him kind of mushroom management, like feed you poop and keep you in the dark. Like, they didn't give him all the info. And so it just makes me kind of sad for him to see him being embarrassed, I guess, on a national platform, and to have his blunders being showcased when what I believe is that he actually is just maybe a little bit more cognitively challenged than a lot of his peers. So I'm sorry, like, I know that's a very clunky way. I hope you're tracking, and I hope you're kind of like filling in the gaps with what I'm trying not to say. But, I think of my son, and I think of the future that he's likely to face and how hard he's going to have to work to do the things that everybody else can do so easily. And so it just kind of makes me sad to see Trooper Paul being put into this position by all of the corrupt people. But, maybe I'm showing him too much mercy. Maybe he is just as much of a scumbag as the rest of them. Again, tell me in the comments. Tell me your thoughts. So, okay, let's see. So we had ended with, so why not throw Trooper Paul under the bus? And like I said, oh, they will. The existing data was retrieved with the Bosch Crash Data Retrieval Program and the Toyota TechStream Scan Tool. Both are the world-recognized methods for retrieving data from a Lexus LX570. The person retrieving the data was an employee of the Commonwealth who was trained in the proper use of both tools to retrieve this data. Brennan might only want navigation data, but if he retrieves data that contradicts the already retrieved EDR and VCH data, He will be putting all vehicle accident cases and liability suits in jeopardy. This is true. And we know that vehicle data will be important in the Brian Walsh case. And I'm pretty sure that nobody wants to see that case dismissed for improprieties. Like, we want to see a just outcome. We want to see the legal system play out as it was designed to play out, so that there can be accountability if that is what the jury deems. Stop light undamaged. So the top image with the yellow arrow, it says stop light illuminated in One Meadows Ring camera video at 5:08 a.m. on January 29th. And down below, we have 3 other boxes showing the taillight. And under the first box, where the taillight is glowing radiantly, it says stop light illuminated on undamaged taillight. I think that's the taillight that he purchased, because see how there's no car surrounding it? And then in the middle, stop light illuminated in One Meadows Ring camera video. And then on the far side, it says stop light illuminated on taillight with trial exhibits damage. Okay. I can't really tell from this picture, but I think what he's saying is this is his same taillight with the damage that he has inflicted to it to replicate the damage to Karen's vehicle. But that still doesn't explain why the texture appears so different between that first image, where you can see the little nubbies on it, compared to the third image, where it looks different to me. But if it's the same taillight, it's the same taillight. The stoplight is illuminated by a strip of LEDs behind a reflector, which is behind the lower horizontal clear plastic diffuser. These LEDs are separate from the tail LEDs. No damage to the reflector is revealed by reviewing the trial exhibits, but the clear plastic diffuser in front of the reflector is completely gone. Without the clear plastic diffuser, the tail light is noticeably different when illuminated. Without the, that explains it. Without the diffuser, the lower horizontal strip is much narrower and dimmer, and that also explains the lack of texture. So there we go. So it's not, and this is actually, I'm only just realizing this. You probably realized it a long time ago, but as they've been talking about the LED strip, I've been envisioning, like, my teenager has, like, in her room, all around the ceiling, she put these like LED strip lights. Like, it's almost like it's a ribbon that has these little squares on it every inch or so of LED light. So that's what I've been visualizing, like individual bulbs. But what this appears to be is like more of a, almost like the tape itself is illuminated instead of the, like, I was expecting to see bulb, space, bulb, space, bulb. And anyway, it makes sense now. I get why the visual appearance is missing the little nubbies. It's because the clear plastic part is removed and we're just seeing that ribbon of light behind it. So it says the yellow arrow in the top image points to the lower horizontal strip of the right taillight with the stoplight illuminated. You will notice that the lower horizontal strip of the right taillight is just as wide and just as bright as the lower horizontal strip of the left taillight. This is not possible with the trial exhibit's damage. This is proof positive that the damage shown in the trial exhibits was not present on the taillight at 5:08 a.m. on January 29th and substantiates that the One Meadows Ring camera was altered. Okay, so let's see. What he's claiming is that the two, okay, I think what he's claiming, I may need you to explain to me what he's claiming, because it feels like he's saying that the two tail lights, the left and the right, essentially appear almost identical, which would not have been possible had the diffuser completely been knocked off. If it had been completely knocked off, then the taillight would have been looking like what we're seeing in that third image, the one on the far right below the other tail light. So, I mean, that makes sense, I think. That agrees with my logic. Okay, on to the portion of the document entitled A Simple Test. A simple test could be done that would positively prove that one Meadows Ring camera video was altered. Just light up Reed's actual taillight. When I delivered my taillight, reconstructed with the damage shown in the trial exhibits, to Yanetti's office, I also left a control box and a power supply. Using the control box and power supply, power could be applied to Reed's taillight, illuminating it as it would have been illuminated in the video. The best Reed's taillight could possibly illuminate would be similar to the upper left image. The taillight may not even light as the damage was done after the video, and the LEDs or the internal circuit boards may have been damaged. If you examine the upper left image, knowing the light shines from right to left, you should conclude that it is impossible for the left end of the horizontal strips of light to illuminate with the center portion dark. And then he's showing us the control switch box for turning it on and off, and then the power supply for giving power to the light. And what he's proposing is, hey, if you guys have Karen Reed's actual tail light in a box somewhere, get it out, use these two tools, light it up, and see what happens. Because if it happens how I hypothesize it's going to happen, and if this section lights up and this other section doesn't, then that means that the light was tampered with. So he says, so tail light with trial exhibits damage, Reed's damaged tail light, stoplight with trial exhibits damage. So again, we have Karen's actual taillight in the center is flanked by David McIntyre's experimental taillights. And then the images down below, it says just taillights on. And then also the image on the right is with the stoplights on. And okay, if you look at where the little red arrows are pointing, it looks like what he's done is he has taken his image from the top of what it should be looking like if the diffuser is fully missing, as was claimed. He's saying that's what it should be looking like. I mean, to me, the tiny little box on the right side bottom is probably the most powerful image of this entire report. Because when you see Karen's actual vehicle versus how it should appear without the diffuser present, if the diffuser was truly broken at 34 Fairview Road, I mean, that is as clear of a difference as we can see. So, we have reached the end of the document, and good on him for piecing this together. But there's still a little bit more for us to talk about. Let's see. All right, now that we have read through the report, let's take a look at the feedback that others provided. I've redacted the Reddit usernames out of respect for the authors because I'm always a little bit uncomfortable whenever I see my own work from Reddit being shared by strangers on YouTube. So I want to be respectful. It's not some big secret. Reddit is an open platform. You can easily go join the conversation. I've even linked the conversation in the description, but I still just want to give others the same courtesy that I would want. So there were a fair amount of people like me who were just boggled by the effort, but there were some interesting dissenting opinions too. And that's what I want to share with you. So let me put StreamYard. I'm going to put StreamYard so that it's full screen for me, so that it's a little bit easier for me to read this. Okay. Now there's one slight issue. There's this box in StreamYard that's like slightly covering up. Okay, I can move it. There we go. All right. So the yellow person says, I hate to be the buzzkill, but his little experiment rendered one Meadows ring cam useless in terms of proving. By the way, you're going to see there's like a lot of typos, in this kind of casual conversation. There's a lot of typos. I can generally read past them without a problem. I'm guessing these people are, kind of like the rest of us. You got a kid in one arm or a pet in one arm, and you're kind of typing with your thumb with the other hand. And so, I never hold it against them. So, okay. I hate to be the buzzkill, but his little experiment rendered one Meadows ring cam useless in terms of proving the taillight is broken or not. Everyone was saying it's not broken because it's still red. Now he proves the LED taillight is red, broken or not. The shadow can be easily explained. Patches of snow fell off when her car started and stopped. So, we know that, okay, let's see what somebody responded to that. So then the pink person says, another issue with the theory presented here is that if the taillight was damaged to its full extent between 5:45 a.m. and 6:45 a.m., why did Officer Barrows testify that it was not completely damaged, but rather was cracked with a missing piece? Approximately what he said, not actual quotes. That testimony has been pretty powerful for the defense ever since it was given. I haven't come to any firm conclusions one way or the other about what's presented here, though. There's a lot to go through. And then the yellow person replies and says, I think the video was a bit grasping for straws. Yes, Barrow's testimony is powerful. Defense should show him pics. Though I can see the Commonwealth explain away it was covered with snow when he got there, so he couldn't see clearly. I had found the same taillight piece that's the fused piece odd because of the series of chipped edges. To me, the cops used a sharp tool to chip off some of the small pieces and planted those for the CERT team to be found so that they got a cause to arrest her. Later, they wanted to explain the scratches on his arm, so they broke the whole thing off. That's an interesting hypothesis. For me, it's the CPD Sallyport video that's got the stinkiest rot. The key cycle was interesting. I hope defense hires a legit team of car forensic guys to explain the taillight damage. I don't mean to chuckle, but does it get more legitimate than ARCA? Apparently, the jury thinks cross-examination without impeachment evidence is not enough. I have reasonable doubt they want evidence of her innocence, as crazy as it seems. So then, let me flip to the next one. If it will let me from this full screen. There we go. So then the gray person says, and when you see that blue bar on the left-hand side, that means that they're quoting a portion of someone else's comment, and then they're responding to that portion. So they quote the part about I hate to be the buzzkill, but the experiment rendered one Meadows ring cam useless. Now he's proven that the LED taillight is red, whether it's broken or not. And so the gray person says, exactly right. And this is something I've been trying to research for a long time with little success. Most modern taillights are red under red. It's both more efficient and creates a brighter red, but I couldn't confirm that that's the factory standard for this Lexus. Now that it's confirmed, it makes the ring camera less clear either way, only to show that there's some kind of damage to her taillight. And then the yellow person replies, yes, we are here for truth, so we can move on and take a closer look at the taillight itself. I wonder, did the defense ever get a chance to examine the taillight? I do believe some of the issues he mentioned were valid regarding the damage of the taillight. I will go back to ARCA. The very small and precise area of the damage does not match a car hitting the body. That leaves two objects in 34 Fairview it hit: the fire hydrant and the flagpole. The fire hydrant is too low to cause damage to a 4-foot tall taillight. That leaves us the flagpole. But the taillight was 6 inches inset from the bumper. I mean, are we saying inset or outset? We should expect evidence of damage on bumper too, but all we have is some scratches. In my opinion, those taillight, the taillight, okay. In my opinion, those taillight wasn't damaged there. Okay, the taillight wasn't damaged there. Then the pieces were planted by Berkowitz, whoever at CPD, like Kevin Albert. Okay, so the reason that I included that particular snippet is because I hadn't considered it the way that this person framed it. That if it wasn't John's body that broke the taillight, and we are supposed to believe that the damage happened at 34 Fairview Road, according to the police, then the only candidates left that could have caused the damage would be the fire hydrant or the flagpole. And it's true, the fire hydrant is too low. But my word, theoretically, if the flagpole received the force of the vehicle that the Commonwealth is claiming was enough to kill a man, you'd think the flagpole would be bent or otherwise partially dislodged from the lawn. Plus, the weight of the vehicle and the tires would leave imprints on the lawn, right? And I mean, maybe even like muddy prints on the, if there was enough snow on there. And the walnuts in the house waiting at the window and door would have definitely witnessed an SUV up on the lawn. And Ryan Nagel and company would have recalled such a memorable maneuver happening right in front of them, right? So to me, that rules out the flagpole. We can safely rule out both the fire hydrant and the flagpole. And once we do, there's not really anything left at 34 Fairview to have hit that would have damaged the taillight to have left those pieces there, right? I mean, for me, it's a new perspective to think of it like that, like ruling it out in the opposite way. So, okay, let me tuck this away. How do I exit full screen here? And then here, I'll put this back up. So what do you think? Like, truly, what are your thoughts? Does this 18-page report help or hurt the defense? And is the contents of the report valuable info, or is it, just a nothing burger? Does it help or harm either party's theory of the case? I'm really interested in your thoughts and comments because personally, I'm not sure what to think about the info. I feel like it's a well-researched and supported presentation, but I'm not quite sure how, if at all, it changes things. Now, fortunately, I will have hours to contemplate this while I dismantle Mount Laundry, but I sure hope that the insight from your comments will guide me. So until the next one, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of our community. I love you.